Welcome to the first rounds of spring. The early rounds of the season don't hide much. They show you what held up over the winter and what didn't. That honesty is what this issue is all about. Getting back to the walk, the rhythm, and the rituals that make the game worth it. You're listening to the audio edition of this magazine. The words are straight from the pages. The voices are upgraded. We all play to our strengths. Ours happen to live in writing. So we've leaned into technology to deliver you the stories in a way that's smooth, clear, and easy to enjoy wherever you are. Thanks for being part of GolfCask. Let's get into the first round. Let's start this audio journey with a note from the editor. Spring golf doesn't arrive politely. It shows up a little rusty, a little stiff, and usually with one swing that makes you question every life choice you made indoors over winter. That's the point. The first rounds of spring aren't about perfection. They're about rebirth, about remembering how it feels to walk the course again, to hear the strike, to miss a few you swear you had last fall, and to slowly, quietly find your rhythm again. You might be a bit bumpy out of the gate. Timing will be off. Speed control might wander. The short game will test your patience, but if you stick with it, something settles. The body wakes up. The mind clears, the game starts talking back to you again. This issue of GolfCask Life is built around that moment, the return. First swings, first pours, first conversations that stretch a little longer because the days are finally getting longer too. Inside you'll find stories, insights, and rituals meant to meet you exactly where spring golf lives, imperfect, optimistic, and full of possibility. Whether you're shaking off winter rust, planning your first trip of the season, or just easing back into your routine, this issue is your reminder that the best rounds are rarely the first, but they don't happen without them. Here's to finding your tempo again. Here's to the early misses. Here's to the season ahead. Founder of GolfCask Life Spark, sip, swing at GolfCask. When the round's over, the real stories begin. Join us at the 19th hole, GolfCask Clubhouse meetup after the round. Whether it's a guided whiskey tasting, a curated cigar experience, or just good conversation with people who love the game as much as you do, this is where fairways turn into friendships. Play the round, then pour one. The 19th hole, only at GolfCask. Rob Fales starts us off with improvement in golf can be elusive.
So perhaps you haven't played in a week, or perhaps like here in Virginia, a winter storm covered your golf course with over a foot of ice and snow. Regardless, after any extended time away from playing, almost everyone experiences what is often referred to as knocking the rust off. Receiving error feedback and the uncertainty around if/when/how we learn from it isn't always pleasant or comfortable. The first way we can prep for spring golf is to understand and pre-accept the high likelihood of struggle relative to perceived expectations. If you need convincing, just look at handicap trends throughout the year. Golf is hard, and spring golf, for many reasons, tends to be even harder. Such acceptance often flies in the face of traditional performance psychology, but it can be an extremely powerful first step to learning and improving throughout the spring at a faster rate. Without it, golfers tend to meet error feedback with judgment as opposed to interest and curiosity. Armed with a high level of acceptance, the focus then shifts to understanding the error feedback and what it means to you. In the course of play, the dominant and immediate feedback we experience occurs in the 1/2000th of a second of impact, while your playing partners are stuck in a trap loop of judgment depending on whether or not they perceive the shot as good or bad. You'll be open to experiencing and taking note the following information: the ball's impact location on the club, the ball's launch direction/angle and spin, the ball's speed relative to your intent. After the round, you should be able to look back and identify the trends/patterns of these three impact variables, prioritizing their importance in the order they are listed above. From there, bring the data points collected to a coach that you trust and come up with a plan for improving your awareness and predictability of where the bottom of your swing is located in space, managing the impact location, and / or the club face angle relative to your club head path at impact, managing the launch direction / angle and spin, and / or the club head speed at impact, managing ball speed relative to your intent. With a targeted data-driven approach, you'll knock the rust off in half the time of your playing partners who are too busy berating themselves for poor shots They believe they shouldn't hit and scrolling YouTube videos searching for the magic cure-all. Here's to warmer weather and learning through play, Rob.
That is a great start to our round. Let's jump into a quick course review from one of our members. Then we've had Ted S., a member since 2024, highlighting Cypress Point in 3 words: stunning, demanding, and pure. Our next article by Dr. Mike Grevlis, The 3 Fundamentals of the Goal.
The 3 fundamentals of the goal. At the start of a new year, golfers often get excited about what they want to accomplish during the new season. They identify what they want to achieve and may even set goals. Others, on the other hand, no longer bother with goals due to having experienced disappointment or frustration with goal setting. Even Pia Nilsson of Vision 54 quit professional golf after a failed experience with a goal-setting program. This does not have to be the case. In this article, I share a new perspective on goals that will hopefully enhance your understanding and elevate your experience with the goal creation and achievement process. What comes to mind when you think about goals? Short-term and long-term goals? Process and outcome goals? SMART goals? For example, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. If you're anything like me, you may be tired of the same old ideas about goals. Maybe you have even concluded that goals don't really matter, and life is really about habits anyway. In fact, a new mantra for many is this quote from James Clear: "People don't rise to the level of their goals, they fall to the level of their systems." This makes sense if you see goals as only long-term and if systems were actually independent of goals. The fact is, however, that the only goals that really matter are those activated in the present moment, and the very systems that Clear writes about are actually made up of goals, as well as the actions we take to achieve goals. In this article, I share 3 fundamentals of goals to help you understand how goals work and to hopefully help you come to recognize that goals are even more powerful than people think. Fundamental number 1: if a goal is not activated in the brain, then that goal has no impact on us. I came to this realization after having studied both neuroscience and motivational science for several years, and I introduced it in my book, The Motivation Game. So, what does it mean for a goal to be activated? Given our current knowledge in neuroscience, a goal is activated when the neurons that represent that goal fire off in the brain. When they are not firing, the goal is not active or is dormant, rendering it powerless to influence us at that time. This is the case with many good intentions that never come to fruition. For example, golfers often start a round with goals to have more fun, control their emotions, make smarter decisions, etc. Yet, as the round presses on, those goals can deactivate as other goals become the priority. Goals that are often contradictory or conflicting to the initial goals. It is not long-term goals that automatically influence our behavior. It is the goals that are activated from moment to moment. This means that in order to more consistently achieve our goals, we need to increase our awareness of what we are trying to accomplish at any given time, and then be sure to create conditions that will activate wanted goals at the time we need them. Know that we can deliberately activate goals by giving ourselves reminders and making conscious choices to have that goal. But it is also true that thoughts, feelings, and the sensory context can also trigger goals, and motives automatically, meaning that goal activation is not necessarily a conscious process. Fundamental number 2. Most of our goals are activated non-consciously. Research in cognitive psychology, cognitive neuroscience, and related fields clearly show that most mental processes, including motivational processes, happen under the hood. For instance, we don't have to consciously set a goal to walk from one place to another, to brush our teeth, or say something in a casual conversation. However, this does not mean that the goal was not activated prior to action. To repeat the first fundamental, the only goals that matter are those active in the moment, whether we are aware of them or not. Thankfully, goals are typically not that deep, so they can usually be readily accessed via targeted self-reflection and/or quality questions. from a practitioner who understands the complexities and subtleties of both motivation and the athlete's sport. A simple way to start becoming more aware of your non-consciously created goals is to set a quiet timer on your phone to alert you at a few random times during the day or during a non-competitive round. When you hear the alert, simply ask yourself, what was I just trying to do? What was I just trying to make happen? Or, what was I striving for? You might realize that you were just trying to show someone up, try to please someone, win the admiration of a playing partner, or hit a shot to make up for the bogey on the last hole. It could be anything, really. With enough practice, you will learn more about yourself and your game. With these new insights, you will have a chance to change long-time patterns that have not served you well. Fundamental number 3. Thoughts do not create movement. Goals do. Imagine taking a walk and noticing a tree. You think, that's an apple tree. Does that thought cause you to pick an apple? Number. It may, though, trigger a memory of the rewarding experience of eating an apple from a tree. This memory could lead you to anticipate the pleasure of eating an apple, which could, in turn, activate a goal to reach for one. Not until a goal is activated, though, would you pick an apple. We have thoughts pass through our consciousness regularly. Imagine acting on each thought. If we did, we literally could not function. Thankfully, we only act on those that have some value in the moment and get translated into a goal. So there is no reason to fear that a thought is going to ruin your swing or create a poor putting stroke. Thoughts don't cause movement. Goals do. I hope these 3 fundamentals of the goal will spark further reflection about their implications for your game and your life.
If you're looking for your next round, your next pour, or the next great cigar lounge, the GolfCask Magazine connects you with curated golf courses, distilleries, pubs, and experiences all in one place. Whether you're traveling or just exploring your own backyard, it's your guide to playing well and living better. Find your course, find your pour, find your people. Explore the GolfCask map at golfcast.com. Let's jump in at the first swings of spring, What You Need to Know by Chris George.
First swings of spring. What you need to know. With the new year comes fresh goals and excitement for the first round of the season. The key to success lies in managing expectations. While we all hope to pick up right where we left off last year, this isn't always feasible due to a lack of practice during the winter months. The initial 5 rounds of the year should serve as a litmus test to identify which areas of your game require attention for the upcoming season. Regardless of your scores, keep track of these 4 essential metrics. 1, 2, 3, 4. Effective tee shots. Did you lose any balls, hit out of bounds, or have to punch out from the woods? If so, how many per round? Approach shots. Were you hitting more heavy or thin shots or experiencing excessive slice or hook curves? This will help you determine whether to focus your technique work on contact or curve. Wedge shots. Inside of 50 yards. Did you miss any greens from this distance? Track how many shots were from the fairway, rough, and bunker, and note if the mishits were heavy or thin. Putting. Did you read the putts correctly? Did the ball finish in the appropriate zone based on the distance of the pute? 0 to 12 feet. 100% of putts should be long, but no more than 1.5 feet. 13 to 20 feet. 30% should be short and 70% long, but not exceeding 2.5 feet. 21 to 60 feet. 50% should be short and 50% long, but not surpassing 3.5 feet. These 4 metrics will provide valuable insights into the quality of your game over those 5 rounds. The information collected will help you refine your practice, boosting your chances of lowering your score throughout the year. Yes, I mentioned practice. This means making time to train and practice consistently. Incorporate it into your weekly schedule and maximize your efforts by knowing what to focus on during each session. Center your year around the 5 T's to enhance your productivity. 1. Time. Allocate daily or weekly practice time, understand the timeline of success, and practice 2. 3, 4, 5. Patience. Training. Concentrate on specific aspects of your game that have a direct impact on your scores. Drill down into technique, skill, strategy, and decision-making. Technique. Understand what you should be working on to improve contact and reduce curve. Recommendation. Seek a qualified instructor with whom you can work regularly. Technology. If possible, use personal launch monitors to gain insights into fundamental aspects like carry, contact location, path, and face direction. Tracking. Use video to monitor your swing development and employ a round analysis program to track your scoring. Achieving your goals is not a matter of luck. It requires hard work and discipline. To succeed, concentrate on the 5 T's and immerse yourself in the discipline of execution. I look forward to guiding you in your improvement journey, so join me on the Golf Coach Now page. To register, click the link below or scan the QR code. Weekly coaching tips and practice insights will be shared on the page, and questions and discussions are encouraged. Here's to an incredible 2026 golf season.
Are you looking for drills, distilleries, or stories all in one place? The GolfCask video player gives members instant access to coaches' sessions, whiskey education, cigar features, and full podcast replays. On demand. No searching, no scrolling, just press play. When you're ready to sharpen your swing or your palate, hit play at golfcast.com. Who wants to hit it farther in 2026? I guess the question is, who doesn't? John Llewellyn will help you gain distance in the new year.
Gaining Distance in 2026 by John Llewellyn. Now is the time to start training to be longer and straighter off the tee in 2026. According to Alex Huang, Decade Golf, driving distance is the strongest correlated stat to shooting lower scores. Not so surprisingly, when I work with higher and mid-handicap golfers, I encourage them to spend 70% of their range time working on driving the golf ball. In an average round of golf, you will typically hit your driver 12 to 14 times. So outside of your putter, this is the most used club in your bag. The game of golf is way more enjoyable when, let's say, you are playing a 380-yard hole and you hit a 240-yard drive down the fairway, leaving you with about 120 yards into the green, versus hitting a drive that slices into the rough, leaving yourself a 180-yard shot into the green. Even for the best players in the world, a shot from the rough at 180 yards takes an average of 3.33 shots to get the ball in the hole. That means PGA players are making a bogey from that distance 1/3 of the time. By contrast, it takes 2.85 shots on average for a PGA Tour player from 120 yards in the fairway to get the ball in the hole. So they are almost making birdie from that distance 1/3 of the time. A very general rule. The closer you get, the closer you get. Odds are that you will hit a 9-iron closer to the hole on average versus a 6-iron. So let's start working on gaining some distance off the tee. Following Bryson DeChambeau and Kyle Berkshire, I'm a huge advocate of building speed through hitting golf balls, not by swinging weighted sticks. In the process of hitting a golf ball, a collision takes place between two objects, and a few dynamics are in play here. There is a transfer of energy from one mass, the club, to another, the ball. One of the main goals, then, is to become competent at this transfer of energy. When this collision does not take place, that is, when one is just swinging a weighted stick in the air, there is no transfer of energy occurring. It's this all-important collision, the transfer of energy, where the club compresses the ball, causing it to launch at high speeds with significant backspin, that allows the ball to travel far. We want to swing the club fast while also learning to strike the center of the mass of the ball with the center of the mass of the club head to ensure maximum transfer of energy. This gives the greatest smash factor. To hit it far, we need to develop swing speed that is directed into the center of the mass of the ball. And the best way to do this is by training speed through hitting golf balls. Below, you will find a 9-week swing speed program that I have my LPGA Tour players go through in their off-season. This program is designed very similarly to how one might build speed, strength, and power in the weight room. There are 3 phases. The first phase, red zone, is designed to build strength through endurance. In this phase, through volume, one is building strength in the joints and tendons, as well as general strength in the muscles used to hit a golf ball. The red zone is preparatory for the strength-building phase of the white zone. In the white zone, I implement overload and underload training, where a golfer will hit balls with heavier and lighter drivers in order to build maximal strength. In the final phase, the blue zone, the golfer seeks to turn the strength developed in the red and white zones into power. In the blue zone, intent and effort are key to maximizing one's speed. Red zone, weeks 1 to 3. Endurance. Week 1, 3 days per week times 35 drives, 3 times 10, 1 times 5 drives with a 3-minute rest interval between sets. Week 2, 3 days per week times 50 drives, 5 times 10 drives with a 3-minute rest interval between sets. Week 3, 3 days per week times 65 drives, 6 times 10, 1 times 5 drives with a 3-minute rest interval between sets. White zone, weeks 4 to 6. Strength. You will be hitting 25 drives within 5 sets, 5 sets of 5 drives, with a 4-minute break between sets. Do this 4 days a week. Set 1, 5 drives with your driver. Set 2, 5 drives with a 10-gram heavier shaft driver. Set 3, 5 drives with your driver. Set 4, 5 drives with a 10-gram heavier shaft driver. Set 5, 5 drives with a 10-gram lighter shaft driver. This may be a lady's driver. Blue zone, weeks 7 to 9. Power. You will be hitting 5 sets times 5 drives with a 5-minute break interval, 3 days per week. Using your own driver and a speed monitor, you will hit each ball with max effort/max speed. Before each set, you will do an exercise to activate your nervous system. For example, 4 high jumps, reverse overhead medicine ball throws, sprints, long jumps. The goal is to max out on each ball for 25 balls. Intent is key here.
If you're enjoying the audio version of this magazine and you like to spark, sip, or swing, please join us inside a golf cask. It's time to get our passports out. We're heading to Argentina, when the golfing year truly begins. Thanks to Francisco, GolfCask Latin America.
When the golfing year truly begins. In Buenos Aires, summer invites golfers to play with fewer demands. Rounds last longer, the heat slows the pace, and the score often matters less than enjoyment. Golf is played often, but in a different way. It follows the weather, long conversations, and a more relaxed schedule. The true start of the golfing year does not always match the calendar. It comes later, when daily routine returns and the game once again asks for focus and purpose. That is when golf stops being background and becomes the priority again. During the summer, golfers usually take one of 2 paths. Some choose to disconnect, putting their clubs away or playing only from time to time. Very casually, golf becomes rest, a mental break, and a social activity. There is no pressure and no clear goals, and that is also part of the game. Others see summer as a chance to prepare. With more free time and fewer distractions, they train calmly, play more rounds, and pay closer attention to their game. The goal is not to train harder, but to train better, building a solid base without the stress of quick results. Both approaches are valid, but they lead to different outcomes when the game begins to revolve again around goals, tournaments, and score. A common mistake at this stage is trying to move too fast. Golfers look for technical fixes, rush changes, or expect immediate answers from their swing. In most cases, what is missing is not technique, but judgment. When golf starts to demand again, it rewards good decisions more than spectacular shots. Those who use the summer as a preseason do not start over at this point. They make small adjustments. Their work may not show in longer or flashier shots, but it appears in simpler choices, better control of mistakes, and a steadier relationship with the score. The advantage is subtle but reliable. As course conditions become tougher and the competitive calendar takes shape, the game acts as an honest reflection of the process. It does not exaggerate strengths or punish rest. It simply shows where each golfer stands. Some need time to regain competitive rhythm. Others continue along a path already in motion. From my experience as a coach, I always suggest that players return to structured training at least 2 or 3 weeks before the tournament season begins. This period is essential to evaluate the game without pressure, adjust small details, and restore order. It is the right time to check distances with every club, collect basic statistics, and review that information calmly and objectively. This work helps players plan their preseason with clarity and set clear goals for the start of the golfing year. Goals that are realistic and measurable and that support the process, playing more tournaments, improving specific parts of the game, managing score more effectively, or simply playing with greater purpose. This is the core of what we focus on during the golf summer camps I organize with my players, using unhurried time to understand the game, organize information, and arrive at the start of the season with a strong foundation to build on. Looking back, summer stops being an excuse and becomes a base. For some it was rest, for others preparation. The game itself always makes the difference clear.
Let's take a brief second for a distillery tour. A poor decisions highlight. Crawley Distillery. Tucked away in the rugged beauty of Donegal, Crawley is an Irish whiskey with a backbone. Small, authentic, and proudly regional, it blends spirited history with modern craftsmanship. The copper stills shine, the welcome feels personal, and the pours are bold without losing balance. This isn't mass production whiskey, it's local character in a glass. If you're chasing authenticity over hype, Crawley delivers a kind of experience that feels earned, not manufactured. 4 out of 5 overall ranking. Since we're leaving Crawley, let's hop across and go over to the UK, where we'll look at the first swings of spring with Charles Sanderson Woods.
First swings of spring. Spring golf has a smell to it. Fresh-cut grass, leather head covers pulled from winter storage, maybe a hint of cigar smoke drifting across the first tee, or the quiet promise of a post-round whiskey waiting in the clubhouse. After months of winter hibernation, golf is back, and with it, the annual question, will my swing be two? Ben Hogan once wrote in 5 Lessons that the golf swing is a chain reaction. After a long layoff, it's rarely the whole chain that breaks, just a few key links. Before you book that golf trip, light the cigar, or toast the season's return, here are 3 simple drills to wake up your swing and get you ready for adventure. 1. Control the low point ball first, turf second. Jack Nicklaus famously spoke about intending to land the club past the ball, not at it. That idea alone separated great ball strikers from the rest. Drill. Draw a chalk line on the ground perpendicular to your target line. Set up with the line representing the ball. Make swings brushing the ground at or just after the line, not before it. Start without a ball. When the strike point becomes consistent, add 1. Why it matters. Low point control creates crisp contact, the sound, feel, and flight that remind you why you missed golf all winter. 2. Find the middle of the club face distance without trying harder. Drill. Place 2 tee pegs in the ground about 1 club head width apart, forming a gate. Swing the club through the gap without touching either tee. Once comfortable, introduce a ball. If you tend to hit one tee more than the other, you've discovered your strike bias. Why it matters. Center-face contact produces effortless power, perfect for long par 3s and firm links fairways on your next trip. 3. Own the start line. Hit it where you intend. Tiger Woods has often spoken about shaping shots and controlling start lines, not chasing straight. Drill. Place an alignment stick vertically in the ground 5 yards ahead, directly on your target line. Hit shots and note whether the ball starts left, right, or at the stick. Then experiment. Start it left, start it right. Learn the difference. Why it matters. Golf isn't about perfection, it's about control. Spring golf isn't rushed, it's earned. The swing comes back, the stories return, and soon enough you'll be raising a glass to another season well underway. Here's to first swings, good company, and the long road ahead.
Bringing it back stateside, we have Joel P., a member since 2026, talking about his favorite bourbon in 3 words. Bold, rich, earthy, Phrase Ranch, straight bourbon whiskey. If you have a chance, make sure you follow his podcast at Bourbon and Ballistics. Let's jump over to Tennessee and meet up with Joe Hallett, Top 100 instructor.
Beware, spring is coming. Kind of like Game of Thrones in reverse, huh? As a good majority of us we're bundled up during the winter. There are some simple things you can do that might help bring balance to your game when the first sprouts of green grass start to poke through. You could essentially call this the 3 C's for a fast start in the spring. Coordination, conditioning, complementing. Bob Toski, the legendary golf instructor, was known to hit the ball further per pound than anyone on the tour in his day. Having the rare opportunity as a kid to take lessons from Mr. Toski afforded me some sage wisdom that will do well for you over the winter months. Bob always believed that while your right hand was the gas pedal, for a right-handed golfer, the left hand was the steering wheel. You can't drive the car faster than you can steer it, is something Bob used to say to me as a kid. Right after he said that, I embarked on a journey of hitting hundreds and hundreds of golf balls with my wedge or 9-iron using my left hand only. Humorously, it started out as an exercise in how many ways I could possibly miss the ball. I eventually got on the better side of the drill, and the effects it had on my game were amazing. Here was the secret. The first thing you have to teach your weaker hand/arm is coordination. You can do this with half swings and by teeing the ball up. A little half swing with my left hand taught me to keep the club on a good delivery path and how to square the face. Trust me, this was all done at a painfully slow pace that propelled the ball a whopping 18 to 25 yards per shot. The next thing was conditioning and making it stronger. Meaning, little by little, I could lengthen that half swing to almost a 3/4 swing, again with that slow motion speed. Once I started hitting the ball solid, I was allowed to increase some speed. This essentially created coordination and speed, which gave me the proper kind of strength. Finally, in what seemed like almost 10 months or more, I was allowed to put my right hand back on the club. What amazed me is that the shots with 2 hands, a fuller swing, produced only about 20% more distance. However, the real key was this. It was effortless. It was balance. I was complementing my stronger side with my weaker side. Believe it or not, those drill swings carried over to the other clubs, all except the driver. As an 18-year-old kid, that club had a Formula One speed of its own. Give this a try over the winter. It doesn't take a lot of time. You can do it indoors, slash into a net, and you probably only need 10 to 15 reps per day at each stage. Spring is coming. Joe Hallett, PGA, do good and be blessed. 2024, National PGA Teacher of the Year.
The spring golf chapter just closed. It's time to pivot to the whiskey world. Straight out the gate, we're going with the Frozen Fairway, Whiskey as the Ultimate 14th Club by Laura Peet.
The Frozen Fairway, Whiskey as the Ultimate 14th Club. If your golf course looks anything like mine, you're more likely to break out the ice skates than your golf shoes. Or maybe you're thinking about using that iron you can't connect with to crack the snowcrete which has taken over your driveway. The first round of the 2026 season feels more like a tease than a tea time, and in conditions such as these, a high-quality whiskey isn't just a luxury. It is the essential 14th club in your bag, providing a much-needed high-proof hug to combat the chill. Selecting the right winter companion. When the weather, and not just your game, has gone cold, many golfers opt for spirits known for a bold profile. Icy conditions often call for traditional full-bodied bourbons that provide a lingering finish. Here are a few appropriately named options that are worthy of your pocket flask. High proofer. Selections with higher alcohol content, 90 proof or above, are often favoured for their robust flavour, which some find helpful for maintaining morale when the wind bites. Consider Courage and Conviction by Virginia Distilling Company. This portfolio of award-winning American single malts uses high-quality malted barley and fresh spring water fed from the Blue Ridge Mountains. Toasty profiles. If battling the winter golf gods isn't enough for you, how about taking on some werewolves? Moonlight Mayhem Extended Cut by Filmland Spirit features delicious notes of toasted oak, vanilla and caramel. Plus it comes with an original trailer and movie poster label for you to enjoy while your hands regain feeling. Temperature proof. Crafted by End of Days Distillery, the Survivor's Cut series embraces the temperature fluctuations that naturally occur in North Carolina to develop characteristics of its whiskies. These small batch barrel-to-barrel whiskies are unfiltered to delivering a robust sip that will keep you going during the most arduous trek, slippery when frozen. Enjoying a nip on a frozen course can be fun, as long as care is taken. Moderation is key. Pace is not just about speed of play, so take it easy. Overindulgence on slippery surfaces can lead to falls or injuries, and that can impact your game in warmer months, when it counts. The false warmth factor. It is a common misconception that alcohol warms the body. While it may provide a temporary sensation of heat, it can actually cause the core body temperature to drop. Make sure to dress in high-quality thermal layers and stay hydrated with water alongside any spirited sip. As your round concludes on the frozen tundra of the back nine, keep your focus on stories shared and the unique challenges of playing when Mother Nature dresses the course in winter white. The tradition of the winter round is less about the scorecard and more about the resilience of those who find joy in the game and ice in their glass, not on the green.
Time to warm up by the heater. We have a 3-word, 1-stick review by Ben T., syndicate member since 2025. This is a consistent, solid stick, the Monte Cristo Espada. Let's pack a few Monte Cristos and get ready for a road trip. Let's follow the boys inside the syndicate on their little journey through West Virginia.
Some weekends are about getting away. This one was about going deeper, into barrels, into proof, and into the kind of conversations that only happen when the right people are around the table. Our syndicate weekend in Martinsburg, West Virginia, had a lot of moving parts. Skeet shooting, cigars, football, blind tastings. But the heartbeat of the trip was clear. Devil's Due Distillery in Kearneysville. Friday, where the barrel speaks. We kicked off Friday with a few hours at Devil's Due, about 15 minutes off I-81 and roughly 45 miles outside of D.C. The setting feels historic for a reason. You're standing near the confluence of the Shenandoah and Potomac, in land shaped by farmers, frontiersmen, and a whole lot of American whiskey history. Owner Wiley McDade doesn't give you a rehearsed speech. He gives you perspective. Devil's Due opened in April 2021 with a hyperlocal commitment, source grain inside the county whenever possible. Mash, ferment, distill, and age it all under one roof. No outsourcing, no shortcuts. If it's in the bottle, it lived its entire life right there. And then there's the whiskey thief experience. This isn't a tasting room with polite half-ounce pours and a laminated flavor wheel. This is barrel-proof whiskey, pulled where it rests. 4 distinct bourbons. No added water, no coloring, no smoothing for mass-market comfort. Proof ranged from the low 100s 10s into the high 100s 20s. And every one of them had identity. The standout for many of us was the twin malt bourbon, 70% corn, 15% malted rye, 15% malted barley. The rye and barley were locally grown and hand malted nearby, which isn't common in bourbon production. That malt presence brought a depth you don't typically find. Chocolate, leather, a hint of roasted coffee, and a mouthfeel that felt almost oily in the best way. It wasn't trying to imitate Kentucky. It wasn't chasing consistency. It was telling its own story. And that's the beauty of the Whiskey Thief format. You draw it yourself. You fill your own bottle at cask strength, single barrel. You label it. You leave knowing no one else has that exact bottle in that exact form. Wiley talked about growth too. They started on a 150-gallon still, 1 barrel a week. Now an 800-gallon still is coming online. That shift moves them from boutique scale to legitimate production. From experimental mash bills toward core offerings, likely a rye bourbon, a wheated bourbon, and a 4-grain. But here's what matters. They're keeping the small still running. That means the weird stuff survives. The critical experiments, the local grain collaborations, the barrels that might only ever exist twice. In whiskey terms, their rickhouse is still young, but it's growing. And in this industry, the size of your rickhouse is your future. After the tasting, we headed back for what turned into a high-proof blind showdown. 5 tastings. The lowest bottle on the table was 129 proof. The highest, 142. The winner, George T. Stagg at 138 proof. We did serious damage to that bottle and our vocabulary loosened accordingly. But even in a lineup like that, the Devil's Due pours held their own. That says something. Saturday, smoke, sport, and stories. Saturday morning, we fueled up and hit a skeet and pistol range inside Bo's farm. Let's just say the Clays enjoyed a surprising amount of freedom. The competition at the top was tight. Bo edged Brian, but the real entertainment lived in the lower half of the scoreboard. Eddie had a character-building morning. We'll leave it at that. After a quick lunch, we filmed our first whiskey cigar pairing podcast with the Syndicate. Another milestone for what GolfCask is becoming. We brought plenty of our own cigars to share, but we made time to restock at the King Street Emporium, home. The walk-in humidor wasn't massive, but the selection was strong. We picked up a few Amazon Basin and Opus X. They were also more than happy to give away cigar boxes, which made Eddie happy since he builds end tables out of them. Dinner at Brick's 27 Whiskey Bar wrapped the day the right way. Solid food, solid list, no pretense. Back to the house. Cigars lit, NFL, playoffs on, stories flowing. Sunday, a little dry, a lot grateful. We left Sunday morning slightly dehydrated but fully recharged in the ways that matter. The headline of the weekend wasn't the skeet scores, it wasn't even the Stag. It was standing inside a working distillery, pulling bourbon from a barrel, and listening to a man explain why local grain matters. Devil's Due isn't trying to be the biggest name in bourbon tomorrow. They're building something that will matter 10, 15, 20 years from now. And we got to taste it in its early chapters. That's the kind of stop that belongs on every whiskey, golf, and cigar trail we build from here forward.
If you want to be part of the next syndicate trip, make sure you join our community inside of GolfCask. We share passions. Remember, membership is free in 2026. This looks like it'll be our next trip inside of a GolfCask syndicate. We're going to go visit Lost Distillery in Fairfax. This is what a tasting would be like.
This spring, as we emerge out of dry January and begin to think about our new spring adventure, let's look at our whiskey pours and pairings with more intentionality. For God's sake, whiskey was first made by monks in Scotland in the 14th century as a medicinal cure for what a famous proverb refers to as what whiskey will not cure there no cure for. It was referred to as aqua vitae, or the water of life. This spring, we are headed to a rather interesting whiskey pairing in Jackson Hole. We were honored to be asked as the only whiskey partner at the 3-day event, food and wine event. Last year, Pappy Van Winkle was the main partner. Newsflash, we are not Pappy. But in an effort to not let the pretentious souls of Jackson Hole down, we are going to pair our 5 whiskeys not with food or chocolate or outrageous claims of nodes of fruit and vanillas. No, we feel like that subject matter has been well covered. Instead, we are going to attempt to pair whiskey with story. Our story, in fact, which is a western tale of our family's 100 years of dude ranching in the Jackson Hole Valley. 5 generations of living, hosting, riding, and celebrating one of God's greatest wonders. If you have been there, you understand. But not just its history, but rather with what we think have been the 5 most important elements of our story, and perhaps any good story worth repeating. Those 5 elements being time, grit, silence, heroes, and beauty. Time, 90, proof. High, wheat, lost whiskey. Single barrel, straight bourbon, 6-year-old on the rocks. This bourbon needs a porch, a rocking chair, a good view, a good friend, and no sense of having to be anywhere anytime soon. High wheat is a timeless pour. Low proof on the rocks is an easy pour made for long conversations and storytelling. It's the perfect timeless match for wanderers and wandering. Time is our greatest gift. If wasted or cut shut, it's our greatest tragedy. We should treat it with the reverence it deserves. We often don't. Time is like $1 million checking account at birth that goes to zero when we die. No refunds given. Trick being, don't die with money in the account. Spend it on adventure, on loved ones, on great tasks, on building things and ideas. Don't waste it on a screen or on shit that people will never remember. You want people to retell your story because it was a good one, not a boring one. Hopefully, in the end, your hands will look like you were involved in not just one bear fight, but many. Spend your time like the golden gift that it's. In the end, the only way to beat time is to live a life that is retold for the rest of time. Get out there, brethren, and get after it. Today could be your last. Grit 90. Proof: high rye lost whiskey. Single barrel, straight bourbon, 7-year. Again on the rocks. Rye is a tougher grain. It has a little more heat and smoke. It will squeeze your tongue on the front. Rye is a little more abrasive. It's the abrasive elements that create the best characters. If you want to remember someone who had a lot of grit, we think it's best to toast them with a little rye. Grit makes the pearl. Starting a ranch in the middle of nowhere in the early 19th century was tough sledding. The matriarch of our ranch was my Grandma Louise. Louise was one tough and gritty son of a gun. She got smuggled out of Mexico when she was 8 because Pancho Villa shot a horse from under her father, a gold miner. She was raised by Catholic nuns in Texas. When she was 18, she traveled through Jackson and wanted to kill an elk. She killed the biggest one of the year and fell in love with the guide. They got married and worked the ranch the rest of their lives, often in extremely harsh winters, no electricity, killing their own game to feed the family. She loved her whiskey, could outdrink and outshoot most of her male colleagues. My grandma had grit in every sense of the word. As a result, my grandma was a beautiful soul and the real pearl of the Triangle X Ranch. Today, we are drinking rye whiskey in your honor, Louise. Silence. 122. Proof high wheat lost whiskey. Single barrel straight bourbon 7-year neat. Now that we have our whistles wet, we want you to try this one neat. Straight from the barrel, uncut, unfiltered as God intended, cask strength. This is a pour you do in front of the fire on a cold, wintry night, by yourself, reflecting on the day's work or kin of yesteryear. These are small sips done in quiet, gazing into the flames with just you and your thoughts. Strength comes from silence. Noise tends to give us anxiety and weakness. Growing up out west, there were many opportunities for silence in nature. Miles and hours on the back of a horse leading a pack string through the vast wilderness. Just the sound of hoof prints, of the aspen tree leaves quaking, no conversation, no outside foreign noise, just that quiet peace, which can similarly be found on the banks of a river with a fly rod in hand. Just the sounds of water focusing on a singular pursuit of a rising fish. Reflection is an important part of anyone's story. Nature gives us a chance to gaze at all the wonder while contemplating the angel and devil within. Silence gives us a chance to make some orderly sense out of the chaos of life. Silence has been stolen from us like an old lady's purse. It's high time we chase the perpetrator down the street and take back this grace. Silence is the first step toward humility, which we believe leads to some real semblance of peace and strength. Heroes, 120 proof. High rye lost whiskey. Single barrel straight bourbon, 8-year neat. Moving up the bourbon ladder is a cask strength rye, which has an incredible spice on the tongue but finishes like a good bourbon with little to no burn on the finish. This is a good pour when you want to honor your heroes in your life. The smoke and spice represent what's rememberable to the characters that make a difference in our lives. If I have to give a eulogy, I would want to be sipping this dandy as I write it. Heroes are hard to define because they come in many shapes and sizes. Out west, there has been a predictable Hollywood Dutton casting of what makes up a Western hero. Big Stetson hat, big belt buckle, big truck, fancy horses, lots of land, and a willingness to kill or take our enemies to this proverbial train station. In my experience, this couldn't be further from the truth, and this casting really pisses me off. The ego-driven, fight first, destroy your enemies, macho rips or drugstore cowboys don't tend to last long on our ranch or anywhere else out west. They tend to be wanderers with no roots. The heroes I knew and respected were tougher than an old tire iron, but didn't need to wear a big hat to prove it. They were quiet and understated. They never mistreated their stock or workers. They would have great reverence for their families and the collective work ethic. They were spiritual, almost fanatical about protecting the natural resources. They weren't there to control. They would be there to protect and to listen to the voices beyond themselves. My father is one of these souls, and certainly one of my heroes. He doesn't stand out with a big buckle or truck, but there would be no mistake by looking at his weathered hands that he was a tough S.O.B. who lived a life well lived. A humble rancher who went on to preserve 30 million acres around the world, one of the most of any living American. He did it quietly, methodically, and stoically from all the gifts he had learned on the ranch. The same ranch that would have fired Rip after the first week. Beauty. 100 proof high rye lost whiskey, double-barreled straight bourbon, 10-year dealer's choice on the rocks, or neat. We end the tasting with the best we got, because it has to match what we think is arguably the punchline of any good story or life, and that is this idea of beauty. It's a transcendent idea that you don't need any books or any unique experience to grasp. Beauty has its own gravity that we are all universally pulled toward. Beauty has particularly depth after we journey through these ideas of time, grit, silence, and heroics. Beauty tends to mean more as our scars and wrinkled skin begins to accrue. We tend to notice it more. We appreciate the smallest notions of one's character, a simple smile, an element in nature we may have passed over in our youth. The ability to see beauty is innate at birth. Anyone who has witnessed a child see his mother for the first time confirms this, which to me confirms not only its universality but divinity. Whiskey pairs well with beauty, because it also is beautiful, and I would argue comes from divine intent from the 14th century monks. So sit back and enjoy this pour. Look out at whatever view you have, your kids, your spouse, the bird on the fence, and just take in what is truly beautiful in all our lives. It will give you a deep sense of gratitude and joy. To beauty and whiskey, we tip our hat and gently raise our glass.
I have the perfect cigar pairing for this trip. 3 words, 1 puff, by Brian Bailey, founder of GolfCask. Cedar, spice, and everything nice. A Churchill. Romeo, by Romeo and Julieta. If you've been following the news for a while, you know that the filibuster has been a big part of the conversation. But here's one filibuster that everyone can get behind. No matter if you're Republican, Democrat, Independent, let's visit Sid at Filibuster Distillery in Virginia.
In the world of spirits, few journeys capture that season's promise as vividly as Filibuster Distillery. Nestled in a quiet valley, where the air tastes faintly of rye and rain, Filibuster is redefining what a first round can feel like, a deliberate, character-driven ascent from grain to glass, with the season as both muse and metronome. The first rounds of spring are about quiet anticipation, the soft hum of warming soils, the bloom of wildflowers along hedgerows, and the ritual of tasting notes waking from dormancy. Filibuster Distillery translates that quiet anticipation into a lineup that invites contemplation. Their approach begins far before the bottle is corked. It starts with the grains, the water, and the patience to let each element mature. Grain as terroir. Filibuster sources locally, choosing corn, rye, and barley from farms that practice sustainable, low-waste cultivation. The result is a spirit with a sense of place. The orchards bloom on the palate, the field's mineral whisper in the finish. Water as memory. Water is treated not as a backdrop, but as a co-protagonist. Filibuster emphasizes purity and mineral balance, understanding that spring's softened runoff can impart a delicate brightness to the spirit. Fermentation as awakening. The distillery's fermentation runs are designed to coax expressive esters and subtle fruit notes, mirroring the season's gradual awakening. The distillery. A modern still house. Filibuster's distillery sits at the confluence of tradition and experimentation. The architecture is a nod to classic distilling spaces. High copper stills catching the light like prop planes in a dawn sky, paired with an open modern tasting room that invites visitors to watch the process, much like watching the first light spill across fields. Key features: copper pot stills with a gentle reflux that retain delicate aromatics, a mashing room that balances classic slow cook techniques with energy-efficient gentle heating, a controlled fermentation hall designed to maximize ester development, yielding a more expressive early round profile. The core lineup. First rounds for Spring Filibuster's spring lineup is intentionally approachable yet deeply crafted, designed to be sipped neat, on the rocks, or in a spring-forward cocktail. Here are the introductions you're likely to encounter. Spring Dawn. Bourbon. A lighter, fruit-forward bourbon with vanilla orchard fruits and a clean, crisp finish. The first rounds reveal a gentle sweetness that doesn't overwhelm, inviting further exploration of the glass as temperatures rise. Equinox Rye. A rye with peppery spice balanced by caramel and citrus zest. It's a dynamic spirit that lends itself to old-fashioned riffs and bright sours, an ideal springboard for experimentation. Meadow Barley. Single malt, a malt aged in lightly charred barrels that yields malt sweetness, green tea notes, and a touch of mineral brightness, like stepping into a meadow after a spring rain. Tasting notes. A seasonal palate. When the first rounds hit the glass, Filibuster aims to align with spring's sensory palate. Brightness, renewal, and a touch of convivial grit. Appearance. Pale gold that catches the room's light like early morning. Some cask finishes give a gentle amber halo, reminiscent of sunlit branches. Nose. Green apple, fresh hay, vanilla bean, and a faint citrus zest. A hint of floral thyme and almond emerges with a breath. Palate. Crisp and approachable at first sip. Evolving notes of orchard fruit, honeyed cereal, and a soft peppery spine. A clean, lingering finish with a whisper of oak. Finish. Medium long. With spring's breath of mint and a subtle mineral lift. Reminding you that water and terroir are co-authors in the story. The experienced tasting rooms as spring gardens. Filibuster's tasting rooms are designed to feel like a spring garden in early bloom. Intimate, airy, and inviting. Guests move through a sequence that mirrors the season. Arrival and soak in. A warm, lightly sweet aroma from the air, the glow of copper stills, and the soft murmur of conversations. Guided tasting. A curator-led journey through the core expressions, with attention to how each note aligns with spring's evolving light. Pairing and conviviality. Small plates featuring bright herbs, citrus, and seasonal vegetables that complement the spirits. Cultivating curiosity. A space to learn the distilling process, from grain selection to finishing, encouraging guests to consider how small changes cascade into flavor. A story of stewardship and Spring Filibuster Distillery isn't content with producing compelling spirits alone. Their spring narrative extends into community and sustainability. Local sourcing, working with neighboring farms to reduce transport and support soil health. Waste-conscious practices. Composting spent grain and using energy-efficient systems to cut our footprint. Education and outreach. Workshops on candy making, barrel aging, and sensory training to explore seasonal flavors.
Leaving the great state of Virginia, and we're going to head across the pond to Ireland. John Kavanagh's The Gravediggers, a poor decision ranking. John Kavanagh's, established in 1833, better known as Gravediggers, sits across from the Glasnevin Cemetery in Dublin. The nickname comes honestly. Cemetery workers once slipped in through the side door for pints between shifts. This place hasn't chased trends in nearly 2 centuries. No loud gimmicks, no tourist circus, just perfectly poured pints, honest whiskey, and a cozy, lived-in authenticity you can't manufacture. Historic, comfortable, and unapologetically traditional. This is the way Dublin used to be. Gravediggers carries a 4.5 out of 5. Cheers. Let's jump on a plane once more and head down under with Beau Hammond and the Fresh Challenge.
Fresh Challenge. Spring is synonymous with renewal, an invitation to extend, restore, or begin again. It's also a season that quietly asks us to reflect. Is this year about refreshing what we already love or resetting entirely? I abandoned New Year's resolutions years ago. They always felt contrived, forced, and if I'm being honest, destined to disappoint. Still, human nature has a way of nudging us towards self-inventory. Much like a subscription or membership, we instinctively evaluate what occupies our time and decide what's worth leaning into. My GolfCask journey began as a favor to support a friend. Somewhere along the way, it became a lifestyle. And while the name suggests golf, whiskey, and cigars, what truly anchors it for me is community. I'm an unapologetic believer that modern society doesn't value slowing down and connecting with one another nearly enough, and we're worse off for it. Before GolfCask, my whiskey routine was predictable. On the rocks, familiar American brands, no fuss. And there's nothing wrong with that. But leaning in, learning, tasting, asking questions open an entirely new world. Whiskey neat, thoughtfully crafted cocktails, distillers from across the globe, and perhaps most importantly, the realization that whiskey is rarely a solitary pursuit. A distillery visit or a good whiskey bar invites conversation, whether it's swapping notes with a fellow patron or leaning on a knowledgeable bartender for a local recommendation. Conversation and whiskey naturally go hand in hand, often accompanied by laughter and in some cases, a healthy dose of humility. That humility arrived in full force a little over a year ago when I started tagging along as Brian's sidekick on some of the early GolfCask podcasts. After a few episodes, I was clearly an expert in all things whiskey, or so I thought. Armed with my newly minted expertise, I carried this confidence into my professional life. I had recently recommended a client for a role at my company and hosted a dinner so leadership could get acquainted. We dined at The Lot in Oakmont, Pennsylvania, which happens to feature a whiskey and cigar lounge upstairs. Trust me, a review's forthcoming on that. After dinner, we selected our cigars and pours and settled into a corner to continue conversations. I ordered a Whistle Pig Piggyback, obviously a cosmopolitan selection. Others opted for Woodford Reserve Double Oaked. At one point, our prospective hire asked if I liked Woodford. Well, rather than simply acknowledging it as a well-crafted whiskey, I launched into a pretentious monologue about how it had once been a regular pour, but no longer challenged my evolved palate. Blah, blah, blah. I'm sure everyone was deeply impressed. As the evening wrapped up, the same gentleman I had recommended pulled me aside. As a thank you, he reached into his car and handed me a gift. The unmistakable bottle shape told the story before the label did. Woodford Reserve, limited holiday edition. His earlier question suddenly made perfect sense. I laughed as others did. Crow, for the record, tastes terrible, but humility pairs very nicely with good whiskey. We hired him. We're now friends. Lesson learned. GolfCask has also helped me in some remarkable places. During a solo evening in Brisbane, Australia, the River City, I found myself at Death and Taxes, a whiskey bar I later reviewed for this magazine. Years ago, I might have defaulted to a brew pub. Now, wherever I travel, I instinctively search for whiskey bars and cigar lounges. I return to Australia annually for business, and this February, I brought several guests back to Death and Taxes. We sampled 4 pours, including a rare Sullivan's Cove 15-year American Oak Tasmanian single malt. More on that one later, too. But as memorable as the whiskey was, the real highlight was the camaraderie. The group arrived as acquaintances and left as something more. Connections formed over shared experience. Then there's the Syndicate, our local group of 5 whiskey and cigar enthusiasts. We gather for tastings, laughter, friendly ridicule when a Scotch drinker fails to identify his own daily pour among bourbons. Road trips occasionally occur, poor decisions are made, no regrets follow. I often listen to a talk radio host who champions the idea that society needs to mingle again and mingle more. His premise is simple. Instead of retreating from those who aren't like us, we should find common ground and build from there. Humans are wired for community. We need conversation, debate, laughter, even disagreement. These interactions sharpen our thinking and expand our understanding. At its core, GolfCask offers 3 easy entry points: golf, whiskey, and cigars for people to connect. Whether you strike a meaningful connection, make a fool of yourself, or simply pass the time enjoying a vice, it's time well spent, and to consider as the first swing of spring.
If you're enjoying being part of this audio magazine, share your business with our community. Advertise inside a golf cask. That was a great story by Bo. Really makes me want to have a cocktail. What the hell? Let's have one of my favorites. The Manhattan.
The Manhattan, a bartender's quietest, strongest drink. By the time someone orders a Manhattan, they've already made up their mind. They don't ask questions. They don't scan the back bar. They don't need recommendations. They look up, maybe a nod, maybe just eye contact, and say it like they've said it before. Manhattan. That's how this drink has always worked. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't sell you on anything. It assumes you know what you're doing. The story starts in New York in the 1870s, inside the Manhattan Club. Private, political, smoky, and loud with ambition. The city was figuring out what power looked like back then, and somewhere between deals and speeches, someone realized rye whiskey needed a partner. Not sugar, not citrus. A partner. Sweet vermouth came across the bar, rich, herbal, imported. A couple of dashes of bitters followed, just enough to keep things sharp. Stirred down, strained clean, served cold. No garnish show, no distractions. The drink didn't shout. It didn't need to. The Manhattan became the bar's quiet agreement. If you ordered one, you knew what you wanted. Rye brought the spice. Vermouth softened the corners. Bitters tied it together so nothing got out of line. Balance without compromise. Behind the bar, you learn quickly who orders Manhattans. First dates who don't want small talk, regulars closing out long weeks, people who don't need sweet drinks but don't want punishment either. I've poured Manhattans for celebrations and for endings, promotions, breakups, deals that went through and deals that didn't. Same ritual every time. Stir, strain, cherry. Let the drink do the talking. And here's the truth. Nobody orders a Manhattan by accident. They order it when they've decided who they are for the night. How to make it the right way. Ingredients. 2 ounces rye whiskey, 1 ounce sweet vermouth, 2 dashes, Angostura bitters, 1 cherry. Method. Add all ingredients to a mixing glass with ice. Stir until cold and silky. Never shaken. Strain into a chilled koopy. Garnish with a single cherry.
GolfCask Magazines is shifting gears. We're heading to the spark. First up, out the gate, is an article by my daughter, Macy Bailey, as she went to her first cigar lounge and bought a wonderful stick for yours truly. Take it away, Macy.
Magoo's Cigar Lounge, Norfolk. On East Main Street in downtown Norfolk, Magoo's Cigar Lounge isn't just a place to smoke. It's a modern sanctuary for the community. From the moment you step inside, you are greeted with the soft murmur of fellow aficionados and the quiet hum of the humidor, creating an atmosphere that feels both timeless and welcoming. Magoo's is a space where premium cigars and relaxed vibes intersect, offering locals and visitors an escape from the daily grind. In a recent visit and conversation with John Ebanks, I was able to get an intimate look at the lounge's environment. The spacious seating areas to the carefully curated humidor provides a welcoming space and ability for business to blossom. It's about more than cigars. It's about connection, conversation, and comfort, the owner shares, embodying the spirit that defines Magoo's. While many cigar shops focus primarily on retail, Magoo's elevates the experience by giving patrons a place to relax and engage, whether they're seasoned cigar smokers or newcomers like myself curious about the culture. Even as a first-time visitor, I wanted to fully immerse myself in the experience. I decided to pick out a cigar for my dad, Brian Bailey, since I'll be seeing him this weekend for a concert performance by the Jack Wharf Band. I wanted to bring him something thoughtful and enjoyable for him. With the help of John, I chose a hexagon-shaped medium Toro from Plasencia's Alma Fuerte line. The unique hexagon press promotes better airflow and a smoother, more controlled draw. It felt like the perfect choice for my dad. Refined, distinctive, and intentional. Dive into poor decisions to get the full review. Walking through Magoo's, it's clear that every detail is intentional. Comfortable chairs invite long conversations, while the decor sets the tone for a laid-back yet refined experience. The lounge's humidor showcases premium cigars, appealing to connoisseurs and casual smokers. Local patrons often comment on the friendly atmosphere and the owner's approachable style. The space feels welcoming, not only as a business, but as a community spot. Even on my first time coming in, I was personally greeted by the owner, John Ebanks, as he offered me insights about cigars, making even a newbie like myself feel at ease. Though Magoo's Cigar Lounge serves premium cigars, what truly sets it apart is the environment. Patrons don't just come to smoke, they come to connect, share stories and laughter over a perfectly rolled cigar. Norfolk, with its rich, cultural, and vibrant downtown scene, provides the ideal space for Magoo's. It has quickly become a local favorite. Many note that even their first time they felt at home by the lounge's relaxed energy and the camaraderie among regulars and those stopping in. While the focus remains on quality cigars and a comfortable environment, the lounge's social potential continues to grow. Events, tastings, and community gatherings suggest that Magoo's Cigar Lounge in Norfolk's will only expand. Whether you're a cigar aficionado or simply someone who wants a welcoming space to unwind, Magoo's Cigar Lounge is the place. Its charm lies not just in what's inside the humidor, but in the connections and shared moments of relaxation. So GolfCask Nation, who wants to join me at Magoo's soon, spark up a conversation and a good cigar.
That cigar was special. Jump into Poor Decisions to get my full review. If you have relocation plans inside the Central Virginia area, if you want to be closer to us inside a golf cask, reach out to Eddie K at Four Corners Real Estate Solutions. Driven by service, inspired by purpose, delivered with experience, and of course gives back to the community. Because every great decision starts with clarity on the course, in the glass, and in your next move. Reach out to Eddie K at fourcornersseaville.com or reach him at 434-996-0310 for a top-shelf real estate experience. Now we have a new contributor to GolfCask Life, Steve Mann from Burn and Learn podcast, talking about the spring cigars and spirits you want to know about.
There's a subtle shift in the air as winter loosens its grip across the mid-Atlantic. Sunshine lasts longer, golf courses dry out, and the ritual of cigar smoking feels newly justified. An invitation to slow down, savor deeply, and connect. This spring, the premium cigar world is buzzing about fresh releases, new social spaces, and experiences that pair well with golf on the greens and bourbon in the glass. Whether you're coming off a crisp dawn tea time or easing into evening with friends, the Mid-Atlantic cigar landscape, especially in and around metropolitan D.C., offers both classic refinements and exciting new avenues for cigar aficionados. New to your humidor. This spring tradition takes shape in limited seasonal favorites and inventive blends. This spring, aficionados look forward to established cigar manufacturers returning with renewed presence while introducing new blends and offerings. Among the highlights this season, seasonal staples that feel right at home in longer days and warmer air. These releases are designed for leisurely smokes around dinner or after a round on the course. New boutique profiles that challenge the palate. Richer Maduro wrappers balanced with surprising notes make for compelling conversations. These offerings are as well suited to a post-sunset bourbon as they are to a weekend afternoon on the veranda. As of the published date, the following new cigar releases are expected in the coming weeks: Alec Bradley Filthy Hooligan and Shamrock. Seasonal Barber Pole expected to be released around St. Patrick's Day. CAO Amazon. Basin. The semi-annual release of this wildly popular cigar is now available in limited quantities on cigar retailers' shelves. Dunbarton Tobacco and Trust. Year of the Pausers. 2 cigars honoring brand supporters are set to ship in March 2026. JFR, Lunatic Maduro, Hombre Libre. A soft launch is currently underway, with an official broader release expected later this spring. 6x54 Toro, with Mexican San Andres wrapper. Arturo Fuente Opus X, TGS 2026. An exclusive limited edition release of Opus X is scheduled in time for the Great Smoke event in March 2026. Collectors should see wider access later in the spring. Cavalier Genève by Fox Cigar, WM 2026. Exclusive. A limited small batch Churchill collaboration. Ideal for collectors will be released soon. For aficionados, the joy is in the discovery of these and other new releases that will soon be available. Visit your local tobacconist early in the season to catch allocations of limited and seasonal blends.
If you've already made it this far into the magazine, you're already living the life. The early tea times, the good pours, a slow burn of a great cigar after the round. Now make it official. Join the Greens and Gray Society in your area and become part of the story. Get access to live bottle shares, private tasting, cigar experience, golf features, and community that speaks swing path, mash bill, wrapper leaf without missing a beat. This isn't just content, it's a ritual. Step in, light one up, pour something worthy. The next chapter will start with you. And with an idea for you to light one up, Eddie K has a great cigar. From fairways to fire pits, welcoming spring with an Opus X in hand.
Spring is less than a month away, which means longer days, greener fairways, and finally, not freezing your hands off while trying to light a cigar on the back patio. If there's a cigar that feels worthy of ushering in the season, it's the Fuente Opus X. This is not a casual toss-it-in-the-golf bag stick, it's a celebration cigar. Full-bodied, rich, and unapologetically complex, the Opus X delivers bold pepper up front, layered with cedar, leather, and a subtle sweetness that keeps things interesting all the way to the final third. Much like spring itself, it reminds you that patience pays off. For whiskey lovers, the Opus X pairs beautifully with a well-structured pour. Think a bold bourbon or a spicy rye that can hold its own without overpowering the cigar. This is the kind of pairing you enjoy after a round of golf when the scorecard didn't quite cooperate, but the weather did. One slow sip, one deliberate draw, and suddenly that double bogey on 14 feels like ancient history. The Opus X demands your attention in the best possible way. It's not a background cigar, it's the main event. As spring approaches, golf season ramps up and the evenings stretch a little longer. The Opus X feels like a reward for making it through winter. It's a cigar for reflection, for camaraderie, and for appreciating craftsmanship, whether you're sitting on the clubhouse patio by the fire pit at home or staring down a perfectly manicured fairway. Light one up, pour something special, and toast the spring being just around the corner. After all, hope springs eternal, especially when it's wrapped in a flawless Dominican leaf. The social evolution beyond the humidor. Alongside traditional lounges, spirited clubs and events are bringing mid-Atlantic cigar smokers together in new ways. Private gatherings bring a new social element, with curated events where cigars and conversation take center stage, creating unforgettable evenings steeped in camaraderie. Mobile experiences and pop-up lounges are also adding flair to corporate events, weddings, and golf outings, transporting premium cigars directly to discerning guests' favorite settings. These new formats reflect a broader cultural embrace. Cigars are no longer solitary pleasures, but social catalysts, pairings for bourbon flights, networking after rounds, or the perfect capstone to a memorable day. Spring pairings, cigars, golf, and bourbon. Striking the right pairing is as much an art as choosing the right club off the tee. For this season, light to medium blends complement afternoon golf and highball cocktails, keeping the experience easygoing. Richer Maduros stand up nicely to oaky bourbons and steak dinners in the evening, with deep spice notes accentuated against creamy tobacco. The season ahead, with lounges expanding and a crop of fresh cigars ready to break from their boxes, this spring feels like a renaissance for the mid-Atlantic cigar culture. It's a season of slow draws, profound conversation, and shared experiences, where every cut and light invites you into the larger story of community, craft, and celebration. So, here's to the beautiful blue skies that will soon be upon us, open fairways, a perfect smoke, and a bourbon as the day winds down. Spring will soon arrive, and with it, plenty to savor.
We're on the home stretch here. We're transitioning to our final chapter, the life section, where we chronicle our adventures. Out the gate, we're heading to North Naples Country Club in Naples, Florida, with John Pond, LPGA caddy, talking about the best country club on the LPGA Tour.
The best country club on the LPGA Tour, North Naples Country Club, is a place you've probably never heard of. It's on an unassuming piece of land on Florida's southwest coast, and it's a little rough around the edges. But everyone who has stepped foot on property knows it's a place they will quickly be itching to come back and visit. As a caddy on the LPGA Tour, North Naples Country Club is a place my colleagues and I look forward to visiting every year. As a staple on the LPGA schedule, it doesn't have the name recognition of some of our other normal stops on tour, and it's not somewhere that is going to get a lot of recognition outside of the small inner circle on the LPGA. For us, NNCC is a place where we are able to let loose and celebrate the end of another year on tour, a place to revisit our successes from the season and forget about some of our failures. Before I go any further, I should add a quick tidbit in case you are here to read about a hidden gem of a golf course or see a few words on golf course architecture from a caddy like myself. North Naples Country Club is what can only be described as an upscale dive bar, just under 4 miles from where the LPGA Tour ends their season competing for the largest winners, check-in women's golf. When players walk into the locker room on Monday for the Tour Championship, they will see a small sign asking for their contributions to the caddy party on Sunday after the tournament. All the players this week have had a good season, and many are happy to contribute to the cause, with several even showing up to celebrate with us. Some let their hair down a little more than others, but the ones who do show up and celebrate alongside the caddies share the same thoughts as us. No work tomorrow, and certainly not an early morning flight waiting Monday morning. North Naples Country Club is a place where there is no pressure to hit a golf shot, compete for your livelihood, or any of the other stressors of a normal week on the LPGA Tour. It serves as a vehicle to do exactly what I believe golf and whiskey should be about: bringing friends together. That unassuming piece of land I mentioned in the beginning is really just a small parking lot and decently sized building that holds some of the coldest beer and best memories I have from my time on tour. Wherever you're reading this from, I hope you have your version of a North Naples Country Club close by.
Thanks, John. After that, I'm trading in my Mid-Atlantic frost delays for Gulf Coast sunshine. I'm headed to Naples. The clubs are packed, the weather app finally looks friendly, and if you can't grab a seat next to me on the flight, you can still ride along. Follow the GolfCask Adventures on Facebook, Instagram, X, YouTube, and TikTok. Just search GolfCask. Fairways, distilleries, cigar lounges, behind-the-scene moments. If you're there, we'll see you. Now we shift gears from palm trees to a music hall. Founder Brian Bailey and Macy Bailey step off the course and into a different kind of rhythm, the rockabilly pulse of the Jack Wharf Band. Because not every great swing happens on grass. Some happen under stage lights. With a glass in hand and a beat you can feel in your chest, let's head inside the Southern Cafe. Some shows are entertaining, some are impressive, and then there are the ones where you walk out looking at each other like, yeah, they're not staying small for long, Brian Bailey, founder of GolfCask, and Maisie Bailey were at the Southern Cafe in Charlottesville for a sort of homecoming of the Jack Wharf Band set headlining tour, From the Hills to the Holler, and the night unfolded like a perfectly paced prize fight. The first 30 minutes, absolute fire. No warm-up, no easing in, just a relentless high-octane blast of rockabilly grit, bluegrass roots, and southern rock punch. The Virginia heavy lineup played like they had something to prove. Jack Wharf commanded the room with raw confidence, Garrett Howell and Ryan Atchison drove the engine room with authority, and Evan Novoa's guitar work added both bite and flash. It was tight, loud, and unapologetically alive. Then they pulled it back. For roughly 20 minutes, the energy shifted into a stripped-down, more intimate gear. With guitar and fiddler, they stepped forward and let the songwriting breathe. The room leaned in. You could actually feel the crowd listening instead of just reacting. It wasn't a cool down, it was a pressure build. And when the full band seamlessly rejoined, along with a few surprise guests, they didn't just return to form, they detonated. The final 30 minutes were even bigger than the opening stretch. Louder, looser, more confident. The added guests layered in fresh texture and extra punch, turning the stage into a full-on celebration. What had already been a strong set suddenly felt like an event. Covers, including a Tyler Childers favorite, were transformed into something distinctly their own. But the originals stole the night. Old Virginia carried hometown pride with grit. Burn It Down brought the edge, and Moonshine Man shook the walls in a way that felt purpose-built for a packed room on a summer night. The encore sealed it. 2 more songs, no drop-off, no fatigue. They closed with Washed, their faith-driven anthem that has quickly become a signature. It wasn't just a song, it was a statement. Purpose, volume, conviction, all wrapped into one final surge. The structure of the show was a masterclass of all gas, no brakes, with guests pushing it over the top. For Brian and Maisie, it was one of the best live shows in a long while. Not overproduced, not overhyped. Just a Virginia band lighting a fuse and inviting everyone in the room to feel the blast. Now that was a full throttle kind of night. If your travels ever put you in the zip code with the Jack Wharf Band, don't think twice. Go. And if the live show isn't in the cards, load up their tracks before your next road trip. Good music turns traffic into therapy and highway lines into rhythm. And speaking of destinations, if your journey carries you to the Washington, D.C. area, the Mid-Atlantic, there's a different kind of experience waiting. When it comes to premium cigar culture, the lounge is worth your time, the atmosphere worth your drive. Steve Mann is your guide. Steve shows us where to light up in the D.C. area.
Where to enjoy cigars. Across the Mid-Atlantic. Today's cigar culture in the Mid-Atlantic isn't just about the product. It's about the space and the experience. After years of constrained indoor smoking options, 2026 promises broader community spaces and deeper engagement with fellow cigar smokers. Through personal experience, here are some of the standout destinations around the region for both new and experienced aficionados alike. Washington, D.C. Casa de Monte Cristo, Cigar Lounge and Bar. A staple for premium cigars and artisan cocktails in DuPont Circle, this lounge remains a go-to for flights of smoke paired with well-crafted drinks. The inviting indoor humidor lounge creates a classic backdrop for springtime gatherings. TG Cigar, a mixed retail and lounge space where enthusiasts often unwind with a preferred stick straight from the case. Petworth Cigars, a well-established local favorite where the community vibe is as rich as the cigars being offered. Shelley's Back Room, more than a bar. This historic spot near the White House doubles as a social hub for cigar lovers and bourbon drinkers alike, perfect for late-night conversations well into spring evenings. Beyond D.C., Virginia and Maryland, Lil Havana. Cigar Club, based in McLean, Virginia, This lounge brings traditional cigar retail and friendly expertise to the Northern Virginia crowd. Veteran Cigar Club. Located in Clinton, Maryland, this establishment offers a community-oriented lounge space that blends camaraderie with a relaxed smoking experience, an appealing weekend destination for many mid-Atlantic smokers. Rebellion Whiskey Cigar Lounge, a great venue located in the heart of downtown Leesburg, Virginia. Rebellion is an exclusive members-only whiskey and cigar lounge, offering a nicely curated dining menu coupled with an extensive bourbon offering. These cigar shops and lounges aren't merely outlets. They are community anchors where novices meet veterans and where a good smoke can easily turn into an unforgettable night. The social evolution, beyond the humidor. Alongside traditional lounges, spirited clubs and events are bringing mid-Atlantic cigar smokers together in new ways. Private gatherings bring a new social element, with curated events where cigars and conversation take center stage, creating unforgettable evenings steeped in camaraderie. Mobile experiences and pop-up lounges are also adding flair to corporate events, weddings, and golf outings, transporting premium cigars directly to discerning guests' favorite settings. These new formats reflect a broader cultural embrace. Cigars are no longer solitary pleasures, but social catalysts. Pairings for bourbon flights, networking after rounds, or the perfect capstone to a memorable day. Spring pairings, cigars, golf, and bourbon. Striking. The right pairing is as much an art as choosing the right club off the tee. For this season, light to medium blends. Complement afternoon golf and highball cocktails, keeping the experience easygoing. Richard Maduros stand up nicely to oaky bourbons and steak dinners in the evening, with deep spiced notes accentuated against creamy tobacco. The season ahead. With lounges expanding and a crop of fresh cigars ready to break from their boxes, this spring feels like a renaissance for the mid-Atlantic cigar culture. It's a season of slow draws, profound conversation, and shared experiences, where every cut and light invites you into the larger story of community, craft, and celebration. So here's to the beautiful blue skies that will soon be upon us. Open fairways, a perfect smoke, and a bourbon as the day winds down. Spring will soon arrive, and with it, plenty to savor.
Who's in for that road trip? I got the soundtrack. Make sure you support Steve at the Burn and Learn podcast and at Stogie Hub. And if you're looking for something to read, we got you covered inside of GolfCask Life, our library. We have all issues of the Golf Life magazine. We have individual magazines written for our passions of golf, whiskey, and cigars. And we have our educational series of GolfCask University up and running. So if you're looking to elevate your passions, learn a little bit, make sure you visit the GolfCask Library. If these stories have inspired you, why don't you come be a part of them? Greens and Grays Society. Build your own local chapter. One pour, one putt, one slow burn at a time.
Greens and Grains Society. We need you, the Greens and Grains Society. This isn't a club you join to collect another logo, card, or credential. It's a community you step into because you believe golf is better when it's shared. Whiskey tastes better when there's a story behind it. Cigars deserve time, and life moves too fast unless someone intentionally slows it down. At its core, the Greens and Grains Society is the heartbeat of GolfCask. It's where readers become contributors, fans become hosts, and local passion turns into something bigger than a single round, a single bottle, or a single night at the bar. This is about people who live our ethos. Slow down. Enjoy the passions. Invite others to the table. What the Greens and Grains Society is, the society is built around local chapters, intentionally flexible, intentionally human, supported by the GolfCask team and connected by shared values rather than rigid rules. Chapters can live anywhere golf, whiskey, and cigars naturally show up together. A muni clubhouse, a neighborhood pub, a distillery tasting room, a cigar lounge, a private humidor, or a back patio with a putting mat, a good bottle, and enough time to let a cigar finish on its own. Each chapter reflects its local flavor, but the foundation stays the same. Golf as a connector, not a divider. Whiskey as culture, not a trophy. Cigars as ritual, not an accessory. Conversation over consumption, community over clicks. This isn't about exclusivity, it's about invitation. Your chapter, your balance. One thing matters more than any preset formula. Local chapters define their own balance. We love when golf, whiskey, and cigars all share the table, but we don't mandate ratios. Some chapters will be golf-forward with the occasional pour. Others will be whiskey-driven, built around education and tasting. Some will live in cigar lounges, where the ash sets the pace and golf is the common language rather than the main event. That flexibility isn't a loophole, it's the point. Your chapter reflects your people, your place, and your rhythm. As long as one of the three pillars is present, the ethos is respected, and the door stays open, you're doing it right. 3 pillars. Infinite combinations. Who helps this grow, and how the Greens and Grain Society doesn't grow through marketing campaigns. It grows through people who already care. Readers help by showing up, hosting small gatherings and sharing stories. Golf professionals help by opening doors, hosting clinics, and reminding players the game is meant to be enjoyed. Bar owners and lounge operators help by creating space where conversation comes first. Distillers help by sharing the why behind the bottle. Cigar lounge owners and tobacconists help by protecting ritual, patience, and craft. Growth happens because people feel welcome, not because they're sold to. How GolfCask supports. Local chapters. Local doesn't mean alone. Every Greens and Grains chapter is supported by the GolfCask team, with structure that supports creativity rather than smothering it. At a minimum, chapters commit to one themed meetup per quarter. That's it. 4 intentional moments a year, built around golf, whiskey, cigars, or any blend that fits the chapter's identity. Beyond that baseline, chapters have access to a deep and growing GolfCask library. Quarterly theme frameworks you can adopt or adapt. Challenge series tied to golf skills, tasting formats, cigar rituals, and lifestyle habits. Learning modules covering whiskey education, golf fundamentals, cigar craft, hosting, and storytelling. Ritual playbooks, from bottle shares to blind tastings, to course walks and lounge nights. Chapters choose what to use, when to use it, and how deeply to engage. Structure where it helps. Freedom where it matters. Expansion, stateside and across the pond. Short term, our focus is thoughtful expansion across the United States, starting where GolfCask already has roots and where craft, golf, and community matter more than flash. At the same time, Ireland and the UK aren't distant ideas. They're natural extensions. Links, golf, pub-centered culture, generational distilleries, conversations that last longer than the pour. These places don't just align with Greens and Grains. They helped define it. This isn't expansion for scale's sake. It's expansion for depth, where this is going. In the short term, the society becomes the bridge between GolfCask content and real-world experience. In the long term, it becomes a trusted network, one where you can travel, drop into a local chapter, and immediately feel at home. A network that supports whiskey and golf trails, international exchanges, collaborative events, and stories that cross oceans. Here's the final pour. The Greens and Grain Society isn't something we're building for you. It's something we're building with you. If you believe golf is better shared, whiskey is better understood, cigars deserve patience, and community still matters, there's a seat waiting.
If you see yourself starting a Greens and Grain chapter in your area, don't overthink it. Reach out to Brian Bailey at brian@golfcast.com. We gather quarterly, and those meetups aren't just events. They're the kind of experience that stay with you long after the glasses are empty and the scorecards are signed. Want to sharpen your edge on the course? Join Dr. Mike Grevlas Chris George and Brian Bailey each month on the Cut Line. It's where we break down performance, mindset, and the habits that actually move your game forward. And soon, GolfCask members will get access to a call-in segment. Your swing, your questions, live on air. Keep an eye out. We're heading to the Muddle Cocktail Bar in Greensboro, North Carolina, where Bo proceeds to dunk all over us with a top-shelf tasty night, possibly fueled by a little encouragement from yours truly. Settle and enjoy Bo's Tasty Night.
A Top Shelf Evening by Bo Hammond. If you ever find yourself in Greensboro, North Carolina, by choice or circumstance, do yourself a favor and stay downtown. The Elm Street corridor is walkable, lively, and quietly confident, the kind of place that doesn't need to shout about its charm. Near the south end of Elm Street, just past Lewis, sits a dimly lit gym that rewards those who know where to look. Muddle. Muddle leans fully into classic speakeasy sensibilities. The bar is the centerpiece, shelves rising behind it with purpose and restraint rather than clutter. Lighting is low, conversation is easy, and the atmosphere encourages you to settle in rather than check your watch. The bartenders are knowledgeable and unpretentious, true craftspeople who are just as happy pouring your standby as they are guiding you towards something new. That attention to detail extends even to the ice. Muddle produces its own single large cube rocks, perfectly clear, slow melting, and delivered exactly as promised. It's a small thing, but in a whiskey lounge, small things matter. On my recent visit, I did what felt appropriate and started with an old-fashioned, served over one of those crystal clear cubes. Another solo patron was seated nearby, and conversation struck up easily. Work, the area, nothing heavy. It was the kind of setting that makes winding down feel intentional rather than accidental. Then I looked up. The top shelf held a couple of bottles I had not yet spent time with, bottles that quietly dare you to make a decision you hadn't planned on making. I listened as the bartender shared his thoughts, offering insight without steering the ship too forcefully, and that's when I made the evening's biggest mistake. I texted a friend, specifically a whiskey savant, more specifically, the founder of this very magazine. I asked a simple question: which one would you choose? Predictably, because he's known me for over 30 years and was spending money that wasn't his, the response was immediate and decisive. Both. Well, what's a man to do? You only live once. You can't take it with you. Insert your preferred justification here. Needless to say, I tried them both. Old Forester Birthday Bourbon 2025 release. Old Forester's 2025 Birthday Bourbon is a 12-year-old expression with a mash bill of 72% corn, 18% rye, and 10% malted barley. This release is notable for its use of a sweet mash process rather than the traditional sour mash, meaning no backset from prior distillations is used. The result, in theory, is a more delicate and nuanced profile. Bottled at a modest 96 proof, it promises refinement over force. Nose, 3 out of 5. Soft and approachable, light sweetness with hints of fruit, restrained and mellow. Palate, 4 out of 5. The highlight of the pour, honey and vanilla leads supported by gentle fruit notes, clean, well-structured, and easy to enjoy despite the lower proof. Finish, 3 of 5. Short and indistinct, fading quicker rather than expected for a whiskey of this pedigree. Overall, 3.5 out of 5. I am a fan of Old Forester, and several of their bottles are staples on my shelf. This, however, did not quite justify its top shelf reputation or price point, around $200 a bottle. While the 12 years of aging are appreciated and the sweet mash process is intriguing, the nose and finish felt a bit light, and the palate, though pleasant, lacked the boldness I expect from a premium offering. A good whiskey, just not my favorite Old Forester. King of Kentucky Single Barrel 2025 release. The second pour of the evening raised the bar, literally and figuratively. King of Kentucky's 2025 Single Barrel release is a 17-year-old bourbon from Brown-Forman. Bottled at a formidable 128 proof, the mash bill, 79% corn, 11% rye, and 10% malted barley, sets the stage for a whiskey that does not whisper. This one announces itself. Nose, 4 out of 5. Rich corn sweetness up front with oak immediately asserting its age. The high proof is present but balanced by subtle spice and depth. Palate, 4 out of 5. Bold and unapologetic, oak, leather, and baking spices dominate, with dark chocolate emerging as a standout note, hot, sweet, and invigorating. Finish, 4 out of 5. Long, dry, and consistent. Oak and spice linger well past the swallow, leaving a warm reminder of its strength. Overall, 4 out of 5. This is a top-shelf whiskey in every sense. Powerful, predictable in the best way, and expertly balanced despite its proof. While some subtler notes may be masked by the intensity, what it delivers is classic, confident, and deeply satisfying. So for a not insignificant indulgence, I sampled 2 excellent bourbons that evening at Muddle, confirmed a clear favorite, and did it all in the welcoming glow of a Greensboro whiskey lounge that understands what makes an evening memorable. Sometimes top shelf is exactly where you should be looking. Cheers.
It's time for the last call at Smoky Cigar Lounge. Every magazine needs a final stop, one last pour, one last slow burn before we close the cover. This month, winter kept the fairways quiet and the tee times frozen solid. So instead of chasing the sun, we leaned into something just as satisfying. A warm lounge, a well-cut cigar, and the kind of midday reset that reminds us why slowing down matters. We stay close to home in Charlottesville, Virginia. We step inside a Smoky Cigar Lounge, a place that understands that sometimes the best rounds don't happen on grass. They happen in good company, with the time on your side and the ash falling easy. Let's light one up inside of Smoky's.
Smoky's Cigar Lounge. Kept close to home thanks to a stretch of brutal winter weather, this midday escape led me to Smoky's Cigar Lounge in Charlottesville, Virginia, where I met up with a fellow GolfCask Whiskey Syndicate member to slow things down and enjoy a proper break from the grind. From the moment you step inside, Smoky's feels welcoming, in the way a good neighborhood lounge should. Comfortable, unpretentious, and focused on the simple pleasure of a good cigar. The lounge itself is clean and well-maintained, with comfortable seating that encourages you to settle in rather than rush through a smoke. The atmosphere leans relaxed and social, making it easy to strike up a conversation or simply enjoy quiet company. What really stands out is the staff, attentive without hovering, knowledgeable without being pushy, and genuinely invested in making sure your experience is an enjoyable one. Smoky's offers a solid boutique cigar selection that provides enough variety to keep seasoned smokers interested while remaining approachable for those still exploring their palate. It's the kind of humidor that invites discovery rather than overwhelm. Pair that with friendly service and an easygoing vibe, and you've got a lounge that understands its role, a place to unwind, connect, and enjoy the moment. Overall, Smoky's Cigar Lounge delivers a consistently pleasant experience. It may not aim for high-end flash, but it succeeds where it matters: comfort, service, and a welcoming environment. With good cigars, good people, and no pressure to hurry, Smoky's earns its place as a reliable, enjoyable stop for cigar lovers in the Charlottesville area.
Every season deserves its closing note. First rounds of spring was about shaking off the rust, leaning into the rhythm again, and accepting that growth usually shows up disguised as struggle. We walked the fairways, raised a few glasses, lit a few cigars, and told the kind of stories that only this community can. Now it's time to set the tee for what's next. June brings hot summer nights, longer days, later tea times, patio pours that stretch past sunset, and cigars that burn under warmer skies. The energy shifts, the tempo picks up, and the stories get louder. Until then, keep playing, keep pouring, keep lighting up. We'll see you again when the nights get hot.